everyone, I'm Sharice Clayton, creator of HotKettleGrill.com. I'm here to share with you 2 specific meals and the history behind them. But first I just want to introduce to you myself and where this story began. Well, originally I'm from Brooklyn, New York, but raised here in Washington, D.C. I spent about 6 months in between transitioning from New York to D.C., where I cooked a lot for my sister and I. I remember fixing rice, hamburger patties, and gravy from scratch at 10 years old. I have no idea how I learned. I have no idea who taught me. I just remember cooking it, and I remember everybody being amazed at 10 years old that I was making full meals. I made cornbread, I made spaghetti and meat sauce. I just really started at a young age. I remember the very first thing that I cooked at age 7 was homemade peas and carrots with the butter. And I thought I did something. My inspiration starts with my great-grandmother, Willa Mae Blackwell. She passed away at age 102, and she made cakes from scratch. I remember coming into her home just smelling the smell of bacon. I remember seeing homemade cake on her buffet. She had jars and jars of preserve in her basement. Oh, we used to make the best homemade ice cream in her basement. And she grew tomatoes and onions in her backyard. And I just took a liking to cooking all the way back then. My grandmother, which is her daughter, Ruth Stewart, she was a great cook. And then my mom. Everybody knew my mom for making something creative. We ate every night like it was a restaurant. And that is where I believe I get it from. My sister cooks. I have aunts that cook. But for me, it grew deeper. I think the more I cooked and the more creative I became, the more challenging it became, which made me want to do more and more and more and create more and more and more. And I sat back and thought to myself one day, what is it that I like to do and would love to do? And I said, well, duh, I cook. So let's create something with the talents that I already have and make something great out of it. And that is when HotKettleGrill.com was born. I want you to be able to take my recipes and make them your own. I want you to be able to say, hey, I don't like this seasoning, but I like this. Or I want to add a little more than what she's added, or I want to take away from that. So that is my goal here, just to share with you guys what I know, what I love to do. That person that does cook, maybe you've run out of ideas. I want to help you figure out something different to prepare for your family. For those that have no idea what they're doing, I want to show you that it's not as hard as you think. For those that are excited about cooking and don't know where to start, this is for you. The first dish that I want to introduce is my homemade cream fried corn. And I got this recipe from my mom, who got it from my great-grandmother. And what we do, it has to be prepared with fresh corn on the cob. I slice the corn off of the cob, and then I go back again and slice the inside. I get close as possible to the cob and slice that inside part, because that is the key core of this dish. It's going to make the corn thicker. It's going to help develop that sauce to make it creamy. But first, I use about 1 to 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil in a frying pan. And the frying pan has to be hot. Once that's heated, I'll pour my corn niblets with that inside core into that pan. And I'll let everything fry up for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, but I'll keep stirring it so that it gets crisp and brown on each side. Once that is done, I'll season it up with all the seasonings. I use about 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon or less of seasoned oil, and maybe a half to 1 teaspoon of ground pepper. And then I'll stir it and continue to let it cook. Okay, so once that part is done, I add about a tablespoon of bacon grease. Still consistently stirring the mixture and letting it fry. I want it to get a little, it won't get crunchy. You'll probably find it to still be a little tender but firm at the same time. But now the flavor is setting in. So once that has cooked for some time, you should be looking for your pan to be dry. It should somewhat be in a state of where it's sticking to the pan or starting to stick to the pan. That is when you want to add about 2 to 2.5 cups of water, and that's based on using 4 stalks of corn. And then you want to stir that and stir it and take your fork and scrape the bottom of the pan and get all that stuff and mix it all into your corn, because that's all your flavor. And just mix it until it's all dissolved into the water. And then you want to go ahead and add a little bit more seasonings to that, because the water dilutes the seasoning that you already had. So you want to give a little extra flavor by adding more seasoning. And go ahead and stir and let that simmer for about another 5 or so minutes, maybe 5 to 10 more minutes. Once that's finished, you want to make your thickening. You want to take maybe 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of flour. You want to add a little water to that, but you're going to have to eyeball it, because you don't want it really thin and you don't want it thick. You want to stir it until all the chunks are gone. And that is what you're going to slowly pour into the corn that is simmering, because you want to create a thickening for it. So you want to eyeball it. You can make it as thin or as thick as you want. It's hard for me to specifically tell you how much, because it's really something you have to pay attention to. Once this process is over, you can turn your light off and cover tight until you're ready to serve. First, I want to start with my wings in a bowl, and I want to season them while they're in the bowl. I want to use 1 or maybe 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, basil, and seasoned oil. And I want to stir that around, get all of the chicken thoroughly coated. Then I will have a frying pan with about 1/2 cup of vegetable oil heated. So I'm going to place my wings into the pan, the frying pan, and let those cook. Once they're half done, I will flip them and have them cook on the other side. Once those winglets are finished, then I will have another pan where I will put about a tablespoon of butter and my soy orange citrus marinade sauce inside that pan. So I will get that mixture heated, and then I will dip my wings in that pan. So I mix that around and let that saute for about 2 minutes, and then I place that on a plate, preferably with celery sticks or anything of your choice, and serve. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. And check out www.hotkettlegrill.com for more delicious recipes.